Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday's Theta Talks. My name is Maisha, and we are here to talk some theta healing stuff. So today we're talking about emotions and what it can cause besides what we already know. So hopefully we can give you some insights, some information, some stuff that you may never have heard before. So that will give you knowledge and understanding to how diseases and sicknesses are created.
Hi. Hello there. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. So, have you introduced what we're
Yes.
talking about today? Do we already kind of share with the audience?
Yes. A little bit about diseases and sicknesses and emotions and what is actually a link between them.
Okay, beautiful. So, we are talking about emotions, diseases, as you said. Where do you want to get started, Maisha? Tell me what's on your mind today.
I think we should start at the very beginning, right? A lot of us don't realize the mind-body connection,
Mhm.
right? So talking a little bit about how when you think thoughts, you feel emotions. And then what happens next, right? How
Yeah.
does it actually translate into any illness or physical sensations, or what is the actual connection,
Yeah.
right? And how does it actually work?
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you have any kind of personal story of your own that you wanted to share with our listeners today? Anything connected to any physical manifestation that you might have had? Um, I can think of I had a lot of skin issues
Mm.
actually that I could talk about. Um, I remember maybe this was about 10 or more years ago, and I would frequently get eczema. So
Mm.
eczema is like these dry skin, kind of gnarly patches on your skin. And they could come on my neck, they could come on my arms, my wrists. I've had them kind of in the inner elbows. So they would keep showing up. And skin issues is always about safety, right?
Yeah.
And around that time in my life, I remember that I was starting a new business, and there was some other kind of competitor in the market who I felt was copying everything I was doing. So whatever I would do, this other business would kind of do the same thing. And I remember feeling really just, you know, uh, like unsafe, feeling like, this person was just on my case, like wasn't just letting me be. And I was really triggered and really affected by their actions. And so when I started to sit down to do some healing on my eczema, this is what came up, is this feeling where it didn't feel safe, it felt uncomfortable. It felt like I was being attacked. It felt like, I was being just challenged by this other business. So that was something I remember, that I had to work on those feelings with respect to what was happening in the in my business and this other competitor. And when I released all those pent up emotions, and I just kind of learned to let things go, and I did some forgiveness and taught myself not to be affected by what was happening around me, almost, I think, immediately, my eczema disappeared like overnight.
That's to some people would be like, wow, it's a miracle because they'll all keep, buying all these creams, right? And eczema is quite common. I don't think people realize that there could be an emotional connection to it.
Yeah.
I know people who think, it may be food, it might be the environment, maybe the air, but can emotions really trigger it? And then, just by healing that, it can undo itself. For me, a lot of it manifested in terms of more about digestion, or stomach issues for me, because a lot of my the things that I had to work on was related to control. And so for me, whenever I would feel the feeling of not feeling in control, I would, have some form of like maybe food poisoning kind of sensation, or, a tummy ache or something
Basically,
in that area,
your stomach would get
Yeah,
triggered, right? Like
yeah,
your stomach would show you that something was off, and then you could say, oh, yeah, it's because I'm feeling out of
yeah.
control in this area or too controlled, right? Absolutely.
And we don't really see the direct. I mean, it took me a while for me to understand that it can be that quick and that instant, for you to,
Or so obvious,
um,
right,
yeah, and
Maisha? Like so obvious, like, oh yeah, I've got this, thing happening and I can directly connect it to something else happening in my life. And if I work on that something else, which is usually internal, then the physical proof or the physical manifestation. I know manifestation sounds like a very big word, but it's like as if like the physical demonstration of that negative emotion I'm holding on to disappears as
yeah.
well.
And I think a lot of us, what we do is we put band-aids on it, right? Which we think it's just external, so we'll just put the lotions or take the medication, and it doesn't go away, right? And it doesn't go away because we're not really working with what
Is
is the emotion attached to
behind
it.
it,
We can kind of hide it for a little while. It gets better, but then it's still there, or it's lurking there, or it can get reactivated again,
right?
right? Or
But
show up again.
sometimes also it does go away. Like let's say you've got a bad headache and you take a pill, right? And then the headache's gone. You take a Tylenol or whatever, you take paracetamol and the headache's gone. But we never stop to think, why did I get the headache? Now it could be I had too much coffee.
Yeah,
It could be lack of sleep, right? But in many cases, it could be there's something that I'm thinking about that is causing me discomfort or pain, right? It's
mm,
like on my mind, it's weighing on my mind, and that could be showing up as a headache in your
yeah,
life. So sometimes because we just take the medicine, the quick fix, or like we have a fever, running a fever, we take the pill.
yeah,
Not the pill, but we take a pill, we pop a
yeah,
pill,
mm,
and
mm,
then the fever comes down, but you don't think to ask, well, why did I have a fever? Why
yeah,
did I get the headache? And what ends up happening is we're so busy in our lives, we don't have time to stop and ask those questions like, why do I have a headache? Why did I get the flu?
yeah.
Why is my skin,
We think it's normal, or it
inflamed?
happens. Yeah.
Right. Or we're not trained
Mm,
to wonder why. We're trained, it is something that is interrupting my ability to function normally.
mm,
So how do I turn it off? How do I make it go away? Right? And so what we do is we ignore the red flags. We ignore the signs that our body is giving us, because all these different diseases, issues in our body, dysfunctions is really your body saying, hey, there's a problem in the system. You
mm.
gotta fix it. There's something,
Attention, pay attention.
pay it. It's a red flag. It's a
Mm.
alarm bell. But instead of listening or paying attention, we just kind of ignore it or
And it
find
gets
ways.
bigger,
It
right?
gets
It gets
bigger,
bigger
gets
and bigger
bigger, it gets
until you have
worse.
no choice but to have to deal with it,
Yeah. I
right?
was just doing a theta healing kind of community call. We have a lot of students of theta healing, right, Maisha? And so this Tuesday today was the laser
Mm,
digging call that I
mm,
do with a lot of the community students. And so one of my students was talking about a situation in her life where it's like, she is just not feeling good. She has no energy. She's just tired all the time. There's no like desire or will to do things. And she's thinking there's something medically wrong. And so I started asking her, I was like, well, tell me about what's been going on. tell me what happened right before you started to feel this tired and so on. And so I was basically trying to figure out what could have triggered it. And it turns out her ex-husband and her were in the middle of the separation. And he was basically putting all the responsibility, the debts, like all these things that should have been a shared responsibility, he was dumping it all on her. And so she was feeling weighed down and
Mm,
burdened by all this pressure, all this stress, which actually wasn't all of hers to deal with. And
yeah.
so she was taking it on emotionally, but also physically feeling exhausted and drained by that emotional baggage that she was carrying, the responsibility that wasn't hers.
And
And
in
so sometimes,
it's as simple as, I this keeps coming to my mind. It's like if you have a pain in the neck, or, who is being a pain in the neck in your life? It's as
so,
simple as
so
asking that
simple.
question,
Yeah.
right? And you're literally, oh yeah, this person was, or even like with allergies, it's like irritation, right? So where am I feeling irritated in my life?
Right.
So these are some really cool connections that we get to learn on this journey into theta healing, and how all the diseases correlate differently. I had a client who used to always get sore throats. Now, you don't think any, but it happens.
We lost you. We lost you for a second, Maisha.
Yeah, so I was saying maybe it happens twice a month, right? So it's not as frequent as every day, right? But it did happen, right? So then, when we look back at those times where they would be getting, the phlegm or anything related with the sore throat, it was when that person was, encountering their boss or unable to speak up. It was directly, you could literally trace back to that day, right? And then the very next day, the sore throat or, any discomfort came about there.
Yeah.
So we may not even realize it because it may be, kind of not as close together. And hence, like you said, we're not trained to identify that.
Yeah. I think that for us, for you and me and other theta healers, for us, it's like, it's obvious,
Mhm.
right? The first thing we look for is if there's any physical symptom in the body, we look for what's the emotional
Yeah.
connection? Like, where is this coming from? What else is going on in your life? What do we have to fix or deal with or resolve or forgive so that the physical can disappear? Like, that's just
Yeah.
for us automatic. But for most people, I think it's something they don't think about and they don't really connect the dots on
Which
that.
is It's
Um,
very interesting because, a lot of people say, oh, nowadays it's stress related. Things are stress related, right? It's like, oh, you can't identify the disease or the sickness. It must be stress related, right? So nowadays it's said very often enough
right.
that we should kind of be able to realize that those are emotions, right? What else is stress related?
Yeah, for sure. And another one, actually, I would love to share is this really crazy situation that happened very recently with my clients. So I was talking to a client who, we had our regular schedule for a session, and she was telling me about how her skin, so this is another skin one, was like so itchy all of a sudden that she couldn't bear it. It was itchy and painful. It was so bad. There were like welts all over her body, and it was so bad. She couldn't get an appointment with, the skin specialist. And so she literally was sitting outside his office to just try to get an appointment because she had been to two or three others and nobody could really help her
Accommodate.
diagnose
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and work with her. And she said, Sanaya, it was so bad, like I couldn't even sit. It was terrible. And I said, okay, let's work on that. And true enough, it was just a matter of, for her, it was she's too rigid. She's not
Mm.
very flexible. And so the rigidity in her life, like everything has to be so like, you know, like she's very strict about things and very like OC about things. And all that stress and tension was being like stored in her skin cells,
Wow.
and it just got too much that her skin started to get inflamed. And all we did was clear all of that in that 60-minute session we had together. We just cleaned it up, right? We kind of, went through all the emotions, released, and so on. And something that had been bothering her for days at that point subsided by the next day. It was
Mm.
so quick, and it was so just like, if you deal with the right emotional blocks or stuff that's causing that situation or that physical disease in your body, it will disappear. It
And our
will
body
heal.
goes back into perfect health or balance again,
Yeah.
right? So it's really an imbalance going on in there,
Yeah.
right? Our body is not our body is not aligned, or it's not balanced.
Yeah. And we as theta healers have this class, right, called Intuitive Anatomy. It's a 15-day class that I'm a certified instructor of. You are a certified intuitive anatomy practitioner as well. And so what we're trained to do is understand what are the emotions connected to different parts of the body. And really, there are very specific emotions, like you mentioned, control with
The tummy,
the
yeah.
tummy or stomach, or I talked about skin as safety because skin is the first line of defense.
Yeah.
It's like your first contact with the
And
world.
throat expression.
Expression, right?
Mm.
And lungs. So
Mm.
could be overwhelm, it could be anxiety,
Could be grief.
it could be grief,
Mm.
stored grief, and it could also be like not feeling like you can take a breath
Mm.
in life. Like it's just things are just too much. So that's, I guess, overwhelming. What are some other common ones? The
Virus,
heart. Well,
or even, yeah.
let's do the heart
Mm.
first. So the heart is like giving and receiving love, and then yeah, talk about virus. That's a big one, Maish.
Yeah, so virus is worthiness,
Yeah.
and that's quite
Yeah.
common.
Yeah.
And
So
what
if you,
happens is our immune system gets compromised and our body's fighting this virus all the time. And when you feel unworthy, your immune system no longer works,
yeah, it drops. And
it drops.
you're more likely to get a viral illness.
Yeah.
But what about, we've got bacteria as well, right? If you have like a
Mm.
bacterial infection, bacteria is usually connected to
Yeah.
guilt.
Yeah.
So we as theta healers are so trained to immediately have this connection go off in our head, being like, well, if someone tells us about a certain issue in a certain part of the body, we know right away, oh yeah, it's probably something like this.
Yeah.
So again, at today's theta community session, our laser digging session with our students, one of my students was talking about how she was having a lot of pain in her teeth, and her
Mm.
doctor told her she had to wear her retainer, but then her teeth were really hurting, so she took off her retainer. And then there was this whole story about how it was connected to the retainers and how she had to wear it, but her teeth were hurting, and then when she took it off, it was hurting more. So this whole thing about her teeth. And immediately I said to her, tell me about your relationship with God.
Mm.
And she got tears in her eyes. Okay. And she's like, I don't trust God. I don't believe that turning to God will relieve me in any way. So there was this kind of trust issue
Right.
with God. And immediately my next question to her is, tell me about your dad. Right. So have you felt like your dad has not protected you, not been there? Like, what is your relationship with your father? Because I knew right away if she had an issue with God, well, if she had an issue with her teeth, immediately it could be a couple of things, but intuitively I knew it was a God issue. And then when she told me about her relationship with God, then immediately I went to her relationship with her father. And true enough, her father used to beat her as a child,
Wow.
used to be very abusive. And so in her mind, my father loves me, but he hurts me. So whoever loves me can also hurt me. So I know God is supposed to love me, but I don't trust that kind of love because the people who love me hurt me. So
Wow.
her relationship with God was broken. Her relationship with her father was kind of messed up. And all of this was showing up as her teeth issues, right? And of course, she'd never connect that her teeth issues had to do with her relationship with God and then her relationship with her father.
And
But
it's like the teeth could be holding the trauma,
it
right?
is
Versus
holding, it is holding the
versus
trauma.
her dealing with it,
Yeah.
so that's how it connects, right? People will say, how does God connect with teeth, right? So it's the trauma that's being held there.
Yeah, but also with the teeth, right? It's the skeletal system, and the skeletal system is connected to God issues. It's connected
Yeah.
to trust issues.
Mm.
Skeletal system could also be, if it's like lower skeleton, lower back, for example, it could be financial issues. Um, it could be, yeah, mostly God.
Support.
Oh,
Yeah.
support issues. I was gonna say.
Support.
I said I missed that one. It could be support issues.
Mm.
So absolutely, like different parts of the body hold different
I
emotions. All right, we
think
got
we
some
have,
questions.
yeah.
Yeah. What emotions is connected to hip pain? So I've worked with hip pain before, and it has to do with vulnerability. Often, like if you're a woman, it's vulnerability of being a woman. Hip joints tend to show up in that way. We've got another, what emotions or feelings is related to frequent headaches. So, what is, again, I talked about this a little earlier, but it's like, what is that painful thing that's weighing on your mind? What is causing you
Mm.
pain to think about? That could be the headache. It could also be an emotional imbalance or hormonal imbalance, which hormones are connected to um, fluctuating or roller coaster emotions. So it's like, what are the emotions that you keep going, up and down with? And that could tell you a lot about why you're getting these frequent headaches. Ruth Rains, how about fertility? What could potentially be the core reason? Oh, that's a great reason. That's a great question. I mean, fertility. Maisha, you've worked with
There's
fertility
so
too, right?
many. I mean, there's no one. There's so many it
No,
could be.
I've seen some common ones
Mm.
with fertility.
Mm.
So usually mother issues, mother
Right.
wounds, right? So fear of being a mother could
Mm.
be stored trauma from
Shame.
childhood,
I've
connected,
had shame.
yeah,
Yeah.
connected to your mom. It could be shame
Mm.
as
Mm.
well. It could be some kind of block about womanhood,
Mm.
being a woman or being a mother. It could be like that gender, or it could be the motherhood related.
Yeah.
So those things could affect fertility. A lot of times, fertility is also the fears we have carried down
Mm.
genetically through our ancestors, especially if one of our ancestors died from childbirth,
Right.
or they had some major complications with
Mm. Mm.
childbirth, or trauma related to childbirth could create infertility
Yeah.
because you're trying to protect yourself from that pain that another ancestor somewhere down the line experienced.
Suffered.
So, yeah.
I had also an interesting one where her mom had her at 16. So it wasn't something to, brag about or anything like that. She was feeling very shameful about being pregnant at such a young age. She had to quit school and stuff like that. So now this woman coming in wants to have a baby, and she's ready and she's of age and everything, but she's having issues because she's carrying that feeling of having a child is shameful,
Yeah.
right? So that's where it was blocking. And
Yeah.
as soon as we cleared that, 6 weeks later, she messaged me, Maisha, I'm pregnant and I'm having twins. So you gotta be careful what you ask for too. So
I love that. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of fertility issues, and what's really beautiful is that realization that comes in that, oh, this is why I am not having babies, right? And I need to address
mm,
this, like that kind of feeling of empowerment when you realize where it's coming from and you realize, oh, I can actually heal this. I can, I can do something about
yeah,
this, right? And then when they get pregnant, it's like, it's just like you're on top of this world to be part of such a beautiful and happy um, celebration, right?
yeah,
It's really something beautiful to see. I've seen that so many times with different clients, as I know have you. Um, yeah, of course, where it starts to get really wild is when we can work on things like cancer.
mm,
We can work on terminal diseases or diabetes or um, heart attacks, right? Like we can literally, as theta healers, work on any emotion, as long as any disease, as long as we can identify what emotion is connected to that, we can actually help either reverse, heal instantly. We've had so many instant healings from disease in our both our careers, and we can improve symptoms. We can eradicate the disease, like completely reverse it. So
And I
it's
think what's
definitely amazing.
also interesting is diabetes, right? Or genetically passed down illnesses or sicknesses. Like you mentioned a little bit about that, but like, within the family, itself, oh, my dad had it, now my sister had it, now I'm going to have it, or that fear of having it, so that's also a big one, I feel. And people accept it as a genetic thing. So if they had it, then of course I'm going to have it. And it shows up. And it doesn't have to necessarily be true,
Yeah,
right? It's something that
especially
you can heal
yeah.
and avoid.
Yeah, and you as long like for example, diabetes is a good one. You brought up a really good one, but like diabetes tends to travel down generations, but diabetes has to do with bitterness.
Mm,
If you have a lot of bitterness and anger, um, maybe past events or things people did to you or what your ancestors like, if you're carrying that, you're more likely to develop diabetes. So of course, it has to do also with your diet,
yeah,
but it's neither in isolation. Like you put the bad diet with the problems in the body, and then put that together with this feeling of bitterness, and you will more likely get
yeah,
diabetes. But if you are eating healthy, but you're feeling those emotions, maybe you won't get diabetes, you'll get insulin resistance,
yeah,
right? So the extent to which you develop the disease
mm,
is also how much you're contributing to that disease being created in your body
yeah,
emotionally, physically, behavior, diet, lifestyle, and so on. So it all kind of adds together. But I'd love to do one episode, Maisha, just on cancer, like the emotions of
yeah.
cancer. So maybe that could be something we could talk about
We
down
can
the line.
explore.
But yeah, but I think today was a great intro, right? On emotions and disease and how these are all connected. But I think it is time for our virtue card. So what do we
Yes.
have? What do we have?
Okay, so today's virtue is wonder. Have we had this one before?
Again, we
Yeah, we
did.
did, right? Should
We
we
had
pick another
one.
one? Let's combine.
Okay, let's do it. Pick another one.
Idealism. Interesting.
Wonder and idealism. What's idealism? Is it like that the ideal body? What is the idealism? Can you look that up? That's
Yes,
an
I
interesting
shall check it out.
virtue.
But it seems a little bit opposite of each other. Okay. So idealism is a magnificent virtue, a law that shines like polished gold. To be idealistic is to see how things could and should be. With this virtue, we're able to see a path to the highest potential in everything and everyone in every situation. Those that live in this energy, do everything in the highest and best way. They see the way the world works, the world should and could be.
I, I
There
like
we
it. So,
go.
so this is what's coming to me, okay? It's kind of like this. As theta healers, we see disease in the body as the opposite of ideal. So if somebody has any kind of disease, dysfunction, issue, challenge in the body, in our minds, it is not something that is normal. It is not the ideal. And so
Yeah,
what we look for is the gap between the ideal health they should be in and where they are and what is causing them to not be at that ideal state, which is a healthy body that is serving you in your life, right? That is with you in your life and supporting you in everything. So I think a lot of people look at what's wrong as what's normal. But for us, we see the ideal, the potential of the body
Mm,
to be at the ideal state of perfect health. And so we won't rest until we uncover why our body is not at that ideal state.
yeah,
And that's what allows us to see, to kind of look into that gap, which is whatever that emotion is keeping them away from their ideal state.
perfect. You did it again. And how we can actually apply that is also here. To live life idealistically is to be aware of your behavior and always doing your best to be your most virtuous self. So there we go.
Always trying to be in that healthy state, that perfect state of health and well-being, right? Which is about being aware of what emotions take you away from that. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
I love it. As always, our conversations are a little bit magical, at least to me, right? Like it's
It
these conversations
always
that
ties up, really
ties
well.
everything together. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. All right, Maisha, thank you for another great Theta Talks.
Thank you
We'll be
too.
back next week,
And
same time.
we've had a lot of questions about disease and sicknesses. So if you want to know more or want to explore what something that you might have that if it can be worked on
Healed.
by us, please do connect with us and try our emotional breakthrough session.
Actually,
Right?
that's our invitation today for
Mm.
everyone tuning in or listening in. If you have any physical disease, issue, challenge, basically your body is not at the ideal state of health in any way. Skin issues, heart issues, breathing issues, hormone issues, fertility, you name it. If your body is not at the state of ideal health, I want you to book an emotional breakthrough session with Maisha and just figure out what is the emotion behind that physical disease. That's all. That's the challenge for this week's Theta Talks. If you're listening, if you're watching, and you have something in your body that is not at its ideal state, go ahead, book a session with Maisha and just learn what is the emotion connected to that physical problem, challenge in your body, and learn what do you need to do to kind of get rid of it, to fix it, to heal it, to reverse it. All right. That is my invitation. All right. Thank you all for tuning in to Theta Talks with me and Maisha. We love you all. Maisha, go ahead with your goodbye.
Hey, so stop wondering and take action. Okay, that's how I'm putting that in there. So
Oh
we'll see you
my
guys.
God. That's so cute. That is so cute.
All right, see you guys next week.
Bye.